This is Get Off My Lawn Live. Join us as we talk trending topics, world and local issues, and the conversations that we need to talk about as people. Get Off My Lawn Live is a Nighthawk Network presentation.
Good evening, everybody. It's your boy E Beezy. E Buck is in the building, and this is Get Off My Lawn Live for another Sunday. What's going on, y'all? Hopefully you had a good weekend thus far. Everything's going well in terms of your shopping and all that good stuff. And soon and very soon, you will be ready for the holiday. But in the meanwhile, folks, we got some things we need to talk about. So by all means, I want you guys to strap in and strap on. We're talking trending topics. We're definitely going to talk today about the latest in the Oxford high school shooting and some of the things that have come to light since that time. We're also going to talk do's and don'ts. That is the do's and don'ts of the holiday in the holiday season, and get into some spirit of giving type scenarios that I want you guys to check out. So all those things are on deck for this evening. Hopefully we can have some good conversations about it all. In the meanwhile, we are going to take this commercial break. When we come back, we'll get into it. This is Get Off My Lawn Live. Eric Buckner in the house, ready to talk to y'all tonight. Let's do it.
And you know what time it is. I hope you have all of your comforts together because it's time to dish tea. And you're dishing tea, darlings, with Big Meech.
Can't wait. It's time to dish tea with Big Meech. It's time to dish tea with Big Meech. It's time to dish tea with Big Meech. It's time to dish tea with Big Meech.
Darling.
Welcome back, y'all. This is Get Off My Lawn Live. Eric Buckner in the building, ready to talk to y'all this evening about all things good, bad, and otherwise. Okay, the trending topics. Let's get into it, y'all. Let's start talking about some of what's going on here out in the world. Well, of course, we had to start where we usually end up starting, the beginning of the show, discussing the latest on COVID and where we at in the situation. As you know, we're here in Michigan, where we have some of the worst COVID numbers in the country right now. Unfortunately, we are in a situation where things are trending the wrong direction. We are about 16 to 20% positivity rate here in the state. We're coming to about 6,000 positive cases a day. We've had almost 500 people die in the last 4 days alone. We are not in a good place right now, COVID-wise. The country overall, the numbers are increasing. Hospitalizations are going up. We have unfortunately found the Omicron variant here in the United States, as we figured we would. And there are several states now reporting cases of it. So far, it appears from what they have found out that it may indeed be milder cases of this particular variant of the coronavirus. But it does also appear that this one is also more contagious, so that we will have more people coming up with positive results as a result of that, and that probably being the Omicron variant as opposed to the Delta Plus, which is most of what the coronavirus transmission has been in the last 30 to 90 days. So we got that going on. So yes, we are still in the midst of the pandemic. The winter numbers are up. We must be careful and do our due diligence as far as that goes. We've had this talk time and time again. Need not recap it later. In terms of the government shutdown was averted last week. Of course, now we have to go through the usual government rigmarole as we get to the end of the year. They are desperately trying to pass the Build Back Better bill in Congress. The Democrats are, for the most part, on board. There are those few exceptions that are causing it to be delayed for whatever reason. The Republicans still seem to be very against anything that's going to involve spending more government money whatsoever. So that's where we are in that situation. There are cases being talked about in regards to Roe versus Wade as well, determining whether it in the end may possibly be overturned based on these cases, and that we get back to a world where having an abortion is illegal. Do we get to that point? Are we ready to have that discussion, people? Do we get to the point where, yes, they determine it to be unlawful, and many states will basically reverse Roe versus Wade at that point and determine that you cannot have an abortion of a child? How will that affect us long term? That is something we definitely need to think about at this point, because it does appear that is in the realm of possibility. Of course, we have other cases that we need to look into. Some of that has been put to the back burner, particularly here, because of what has transpired in terms of one Oxford high school. So that being said, we are going to get into that. We're actually going to do a little something different here. We're going to add a little background music. Let's see how you like that as we have this discussion. Here we go. All right. So yes, now we are talking the situation at Oxford High School. What has transpired since the last time we talked, and what the future of that situation in that case may very well be. So feel free to jump on in the conversation as we talk about it, because I think it's something that we all need to talk about, not just those of you who are parents, but those of you who live in any type of community where schools are located and things of that nature. So people, here's the situation, folks. We know what happened. Tuesday, there was a shooting at Oxford High School in Oxford, Michigan, involving a young man whose name I will not mention. The pictures are out there. They have been broadcasted. I don't choose to broadcast it either, because this individual has caused a problem that has affected not only a community, but a state and probably certain parts of the country. Here's the situation as we know it now. Apparently, this young man was having some type of emotional issues that dates back weeks ago. It was reported that there was a meeting between this young man and a counselor on Monday to discuss the fact that his teacher found him looking up ammunition in class on his phone. At that time, he was talked to about it. Basically said it was just something he was doing, no particular reason, and that was that. Basically, what we found out later on is that a email or a text went back and forth between him and his mother, and the mother basically said that you're not in trouble. I just want you to know that you need to be more careful in regards to what you're looking at. We have learned that the gun that was used in the shooting, that particular weapon was indeed bought by his father days before Black Friday sale, to be exact. Of course, there's a debate as to whether or not he bought the gun for his son or bought it and his son just utilized it. Basically, from what I think that yes, he actually did buy the gun for his son. It's been reported that on the son's social media platform, he showed that same day that he had the gun and this was his new toy and what have you. So based upon that, I do believe it was very much bought for the son. Obviously not for what it was eventually used for, but it was bought for the son. Now, the problem that really bothers me is that apparently the next day, the day of the actual shooting, this young man was once again sent to the office because he was found to be doing some type of disturbing pictures involving guns and dead people with various things scrolled upon them. You can actually go on YouTube and look up the press conference last week where it was discussed exactly what was written and the exact pictures and what have you. We don't have those pictures available and probably don't want them. They were said to be very disturbing, so much so that the teacher sent this young man back to the counselor to be talked to yet again. At that time, his parents were brought up to the school to discuss what had been found. Now, according to the young man in question, his thoughts process was that, yes, I'm doing this not because I'm planning anything. It's because I want to be a video game programmer, and this is part of some video game that I'm trying to design. And that's why you have the pictures of the dead bodies and guns and blood and what have you. It's all part of the design mechanism. And based on that discussion, it was determined that it was just something that should be looked into. So the parents were strongly encouraged to get him counseling within the next 48 hours. And at that time, they wanted that young man to go home with them. They refused to take him home, apparently. And as a result, he was allowed to stay in the school. Now, friends, here's the problem. If it was determined that he was having those type of issues where he needed to be psychologically evaluated as soon as possible, there's no way that young man should have went and stayed in the school, nor should he have went back to class. This is 2 days in a row now they have brought him to the office for some type of behavioral issue that was concerning. And this day and age of 2021, with past shootings having taken place all across the country, this was more than just something you should have glanced over. If you had determined he should have went home, you should have insisted that he went home. Period. If you had to suspend him for that day, you had to suspend him until a time where he basically was then allowed to go see counseling, then that's what should have happened. He should not have been allowed to go back to class. Period. That's problem one. That we have to blame the persons involved. Was it be the exact administrator, as in the counselor themselves, the school itself, whatever the case may be? If we had that type of issue, it should have been on a bigger radar, and he should have been observed more in regards to that. He should not have been allowed to go back to class. They should have insisted that he went home and not return until the psychological evaluation had taken place. Period. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Hours later, he emerges from the bathroom and the shootings begin. Now, here's the part that we don't know. We do know that he basically shot at least 11 people and had intentions on shooting more. Still had 17 available rounds to shoot more people at that point in time. the fact that it did not go on does not indicate to me that he had no intention of doing so. Because at that time, I think he had enough time to kind of weigh what actually happened at that point and determined that he was not ready to die himself. So in that point in time, when the police happened upon the scene, he turned himself in and had nothing to say. And from what we know, still has had nothing to say in regards to the incident. What is concerning is that the 4 young people that he killed do seem to have ties to some type of athletic background. And then 3 of the 4 of them were athletes at the school. One on the bowling team, I believe one was a softball soccer player, and one was a football player. But yeah, that's a pattern. You basically you want to know why he did it. We all want to know that. Was it because he was being bullied by some of the athletes? Was it because he was jealous of them? Was it because they were popular and he wasn't? What was the case? And then there is the reports that several people called off of school that day. They determined that, no, I'm not going to school. I refuse to do it. Something bad's going to happen, and I'm not going. One such report did actually take place in regards to that. I do believe we still have that available to show you. So stand by while I track down that particular video. If I can indeed do just that. Because there's definitely things that we talked about on Tuesday, but I do also want to revisit those again today. So yeah, let's go here.
Rushing as much as they can to that Meyer to pick their children up over at the Garden Center. The Meyer's just north of the school. Jason Colthorpe is there. I know you've been talking with parents. Jason, give us the very latest. Oh, as we see people in person.
Yeah, this is actually Trayshawn and his mom, Robin Redding, who Trayshawn actually didn't go to school today. I haven't gotten a chance to talk to him. He was actually just briefing police on what is believed to be kind of the threat that was leading up to this. Trayshawn, just a second, I'm going to start with your mom. Walk me through what this was like as a parent and explain. Trayshawn didn't go to school today because of a perceived threat, correct?
Well, he didn't go to school today because he was just not feeling comfortable with going to school. He had a conscience of saying, like, I don't want to go to school today, Mom. Can I just do it online? So I just said, okay, yeah. But then before him saying that, he said, Mom, none of the rest of the kids is going today. And I said, why? The rest of them not going? And he said, no. So I said, okay. He said he wasn't answering because all of them always say, I'm ready, I'm up, I'm getting on the bus, or meet me here. That nature, and that wasn't happening today.
And why was that? Was there an uneasy feeling about the kids?
Yeah, he was that was just uneasy feeling that he had and didn't want to go.
I just got like a little feeling that like when I got up today, like I text me and my little cousins because I'm a senior, like they're like a little bit younger than me, so I text them and I was like, is anybody up? Who's going to school? Like, get up, let's go, we're going to school. No one responded, so I'm like, this is weird. Like, we never do this. Like, either like somebody's sick or like something's wrong. So I'm like,
what was worrying everybody?
Now, that being said, part of the problem here is that there were several messages that went viral online the day of the shooting, basically showing some of this person's social media platform. And in one of the posts, it basically said, death is coming, see you tomorrow, Oxford High School. And apparently several people saw that online, and they say that is why they determined they weren't going to school. They talk about this uneasy feeling they had. I do believe that this young man and several of the other students were well aware of the fact that this person basically had some intentions that were not good. And they took him at his word, and that is why they chose not to go to school. Now, understand, from my understanding, many of these students at Oxford High are going to be interviewed in regards to this case. And I wonder if the actual truth about that comes out, or if people are afraid of what happened and as a result choose not to do so. I do believe that many of these young people had a feeling that this would take place. And talking to some other students within other school districts, they also had concerns, which has led to other issues that we'll talk about a little bit later. But I want to play a little bit more of this video and then get into it a little deeper. All right, hold on.
There have been some ominous threats posted in recent days. Is that right?
Yeah, that is right. That it is. I've been hearing the threats too, and it's like, you know, kids, they play around and say, oh, we're going to shoot up the school or this. You don't supposed to play around with that.
Right.
Like, this is serious. You can't do that. So, I mean, like, it's a lot of stuff that's been going on, you know. This school, it's been tragic, and it's like, I don't even know. It's just...
When you heard about what was going on at school today, you weren't there, but then you learned there's an active shooter. What was going through your mind?
My first thing when I got up, I put my shoes on, put my coat on, I told my mom, come on, let's go. I have a friend, he's more like my cousin. I think of him as my cousin. And I said, he's in there. He's the only one that went to school. And I need to get up there to get him out of that school because I don't want anything to happen to him.
And he is okay?
Yeah, he is fine. He's at home. He's a little bit scared, but he'll be okay. It's just been crazy.
Now, the threats that we've been talking about, I was just talking to the undersheriff again about that. They're looking into these threats. There was something posted about a deer head. Tell me about that.
That happened probably like a month ago, which is like somebody cut off a deer head, his neck, about like right on his neck.
An actual deer head.
The actual deer head, blood and everything, and threw it in our courtyard in our school, which you have to get inside the school to get in that courtyard, and it's outside. And they drew all on the buildings on the wall looking for our principal. They want to talk to our principal, ask him where he is. I mean, it's a lot to this. I mean, I don't have all the details, but
and they're still investigating. He's confirmed if it's connected to this sophomore who pulled the trigger today. And as you guys got
now, this is just one of several people that I've talked to over the last few days in regards to the incident. I'm looking at that again for maybe like the fifth or sixth time now, and I still believe that this young man knew more than what he was saying. There was more than just a slight concern. Basically, when he told his mom he's not going to school today, I'm going to do it online, she said he had never previously had that request at any time. But he did, when he mentioned the threats, talked of numerous threats. So my thinking is this young man may not be the only problem child in Oxford High School. That basically he beat everybody else to the punch. Clearly there are some things going on within that high school, at least from what I'm seeing, that needs to be addressed before they even consider the possibility of reopening that campus for learning. This is going to happen again somewhere. But bottom line, it should never happen again at that high school because there should be a heightened awareness. There should have been one, as he mentioned, there was that incident a month ago with the deer head, where they found a piece of a killed deer head on campus with the blood and all. At that point, there should have been a heightened sense of awareness. There should have been more security in place. Any incident similar to the one with that young man should have been taken far more seriously than it was, so that we don't find ourselves in this situation right now, where we have what has happened happen. Now, the other part of the equation here is the fact that after the young man was charged with murder, as he should have been, as an adult, as he should have been, there was the question of the responsibility of the gun. When it was found out that the parent bought the gun on Friday and the gun was in the care of this young man previous to the shooting, it was at that point determined whether or not the parent should be charged as well. At that time, Tuesday, I talked about it. I said I feel like they definitely should be charged in this case. And the prosecutor agreed with my assessment and basically charged them with several counts of involuntary manslaughter. At that time, they were asked to turn themselves in and chose not to do so. They chose to instead go hide out from their home. They were eventually found the next morning in Detroit, Michigan, hiding in a warehouse. Had basically said that they had no intentions of not turning themselves in, it's just they were scared and fearful for their life. I'm not buying that, y'all. I'm not buying that. I think, just like everybody else, for the vast majority of all of us, we thought they were guilty in this, and they knew they were guilty. And they knew once the information came out, particularly about the text messages and the like, the additional guns that were found in the home, the ammunition, the sales receipts, and what have you, it would be determined that they too would be guilty. And as a result, they had every intention on running. Fortunately, there was much information out there about where their whereabouts could eventually lead them to. They apparently have people in Florida, and they thought it was a very good possibility that they may flee to Florida to get away. But fortunately, they were apprehended and now are currently in Oakland County Prison along with their son as they await further charges and trial. There will also be charges for the people that helped them hide here in Detroit. I hate that they came here to hide. It's bad enough that you have involved your community in your foolishness, but now you involve my city in it as well. I was not happy about that. Bottom line, people, is that high school has a very serious issue, one that it will probably never truly get over. Remember, there are several high schools who have unfortunately found themselves in this position, and school is never the same after that. How could it be when you're there at school and your concern from that point forward is not just your education, but also your well-being and your child's well-being? How could you comfortably send your child to that school? T. Hurd in the building. What's going on, T. Hurd? Thank you, sir. Appreciate the support. But yeah, I want to play a little bit more of this because I want to get to this part and then I want to address that as well.
Here you saw a couple of the students come out, and I don't want you to name any names because they're still notifying people, but how is that hitting you, knowing that you know some of these kids that were shot today?
I mean, it worries me a lot. I mean, I grew up with these kids for so long. I've been going out here for almost like 4 or 5 years now. And I know of these kids that they're hurt and they're sad. And their parents don't know what to do, but it's going to be okay. God will heal everybody. Everybody will be fine.
We're certainly glad you're okay. And Robin, from a parent's standpoint, talk to me about safety. Do you feel safe letting Trayshawn go back to school here?
No, I do not, because they haven't got this under control. If all these things are already happening, you never know what might happen again. And I'm not finna risk my child being able to get hurt. So I would prefer just to have him online. I'm not sending him back to the school. There's nothing that nobody can say, oh, you going to school. Oh, it's over. You don't know. You can't predict anything for that to happen. So no, I'd rather for him to go online. My condolence goes out to the family and the staffs and all the, the kids that.
Okay. Notice how very adamant she was about her child not going back to that school. Understand her child is a senior at that school, has attended that school for the last few years. Apparently, there's been other issues. She was indeed you see it in her face. She was very adamant about him not returning to that school, period. And there was nothing anybody could say to make her send her child back there. And I don't blame her for feeling that way. I too would feel that way at this point because there's no guarantee that this is not going to happen again there based on how you let it happen in the first place. This clearly was an avoidable situation, particularly when you ironed out that the person that could potentially be a problem They needed some help. And as opposed to that person getting the help they needed, now they find themselves in prison looking at several life sentences for their actions at the age of 15, no less, with their parents there as well. So now not only has he ruined his life, but potentially the life of his parents as well. I do believe in the end, all three of them will be charged. All three of them will be sent to court, and all three of them will be found guilty and will be doing years for this crime. I don't think if it goes any other way, it will be received well by the public. And yes, it will be hard for them to find a jury of 12 to deal with them fairly here. Many people have heard about this case already, but I do imagine they will find a place. They will probably fight for them not having the trial in Oxford for obvious reasons. If that's the case, by all means, send them to 36th District Court. Have it here in Detroit. Jury of your peers not to be taking place here, because as you know, most of the people here in Detroit that will be on the jury probably look like me. But that being said, yeah, it's got to go on. If no, for no other reason, these parents need to be made an example of. We cannot allow this to continue to happen, particularly when it took for several council sessions and teachers and whatnot to point out that this young man had a problem, and you as the parents chose to not only ignore it, but basically feed the problem by allowing him the opportunity to have a weapon. Absolutely, T. Heard. To have a weapon and then use said weapon to commit this crime. And now as a result, several young people are never coming home from school. That's something you as a parent should never have to concern yourself with. Your child, truthfully, in a school should be safer than they are at home in terms of security measures and what have you. T. Heard saying, I definitely blame the parents. This doesn't make any sense at all. It absolutely did not make sense, and it definitely could have been avoided. That is why I am still highly upset, even though I am not a parent, but I do feel for the parents in this case, not only the parents of the victims, but the parents of the school who are now having to consider what to do about their child. Imagine what type of trauma that would have on you at 15, 16, 17 years old. Imagine if you were actually in the class of that young man. If you basically remember seeing his face in the hallway. Imagine what he may have said to some of the other students. For all we know, he could have threatened them beforehand. He could have been like, yeah, you tomorrow, bang, bang. You know, who knows what really took place? Who knows how much the actual students will tell in regards to this? This is highly concerning. And then, of course, we go to the whole gun laws and semi-automatic weapons shouldn't be on the streets and things of that nature. And then we had the whole fight about NRA. And, you know, we go back and forth. We've been literally doing this dance for the last 20-some years with Columbine and Sandy Hook and all the other schools. How many more times does this need to happen before we really and truly deal with the situation the way we need to? Do we have to come to a point to where all our schools now look like small prison lockups that's full of all right, hold on. I've been through this at age 6. Exactly. I do recall part of that story that you told, Mr. Muhammad. I do recall seeing that on your social media post, so you do understand. But the bottom line is we shouldn't have to go through this. I talked about on Tuesday how I lived through a situation that was outside of campus that happened near the grounds of Cody High School, where there was a shooting at the McDonald's involving some foolishness, and how I almost was caught up in that literal crossfire that day. Couple different decisions that day, and I would have been there at the time that the incident happened. But again, that's off campus. You should not have to worry about that there, but you definitely should not have to worry about that at school, where you are there to learn and feel comfortable in learning. So I don't know what happens to the other 1,800 plus students in that school at this point. I do know at some point they will look to open that school back up. I definitely don't think it should happen anytime before the new year. Before it opens back up, conversations need to be had. Some of those administrators, particularly the one that allowed that child to go back to school, needs to be released, fired, done away with. They should not have approved that. They should have definitely spoke up in regards to that, not allowed that child to go back to class. It's always, it's about people being responsible with their firearms and their children. Absolutely. It's definitely about that. That child should not have had access to that gun at all. You cannot lawfully have a weapon of that type as a 15-year-old. I don't think that's the case in any state in America for that particular weapon. Yes, there are states that will allow children to have hunting rifles and the like. I do know that. But we're talking about a semi-automatic handgun that could shoot several rounds in a matter of seconds. No child should have access to that. And you, as a responsible parent who taught that young man how to use the weapon, as it has found out that the mother did, you are supposed to teach him that no, the weapon is not for that. It is for your protection only in these particular cases, not to take to school and either be bullied or deal with bullies with said weapon. That should have never happened. In several of these cases, we find that bullying is a key component into what has happened in regards to the shootings. I want to know how he got the bullets. We know how he got the bullets. His parents bought them. They bought the gun for him. They bought the bullets. It happened on a Friday. And later on that day, there he is on his social media showing the exact gun that was used in the shooting. This is my new toy, what have you. And then a couple days later, we get the cryptic message, see you tomorrow, Oxford High School. And then what happens. After they had the counseling session. Now, understand, part of what the school is saying is the fact that, yeah, we're not saying that this dude was a problem before. He had no type of things on his record that would indicate that something like this would take place. We had no similar behavioral issues in regards to this particular individual. But according to some of the students, they're saying that things like this have been surfacing around the school for weeks and months now. So far, there is no signs that any bullying was involved in this situation. From what we know at this point, we'll know. There has been no indication that that is the case. But like I said, I do believe I would definitely look into that based upon who was actually shot, with several of them being athletes and people in the school of influence. I really would look into, okay, was there some type of hit list? It's been said that this young man had been keeping journals in regards to this activity and had planned on doing so in some way, shape, or form. So as we look into those journals and look into some of his internet postings and things he looked up on the internet as they have access to his laptop and what have you, I would like to know if some of that went on, if he had discussed with other individuals this. We found out in the past that there were several students planning to do things similar to this on their own accord. That they basically plan on having a day where I'm going to shoot up this school, you're going to shoot up that school, what have you. Several of these things have been frauded over the years, but in the same token, we have a situation where now not only is it prevalent, but then we lead to the next problem. Because, of course, what has happened in the following days is that several other threats have been made in schools all across the state and, in fact, across the country. So much so that they shut down over 65 school districts here in Michigan alone the last 2 days of the week. We'll check it back in. So far, like I said, there is no indication of bullying, and this looks like it just was a random act and there was no real targets. Like I said, based on some of the reports that I have, I am led to believe that that may not be the case. There's a lot of fluidity going on with this situation in regards to what might be credible and what may not be. As we look into the story more and more details come out, we'll have a better understanding. But like I said, based on some of the reports, there were journals being kept. There were other social media posts. Some had been erased, some had not been erased. So as they dig more into the actual findings, we'll gain a better understanding based on that. Remember, a lot of this is criminal evidence. Will, former officer, as we know, he would understand that better than I as to what part of that can actually be put out to the public at this point and what part is being held for evidence for the later trial. But I imagine at some point we will know these things more for certain than we do now. But yeah, my concern now is, like I said, some of the other schools have had threats. Now, many of those threats we have learned to be not credible. And the problem I have with that is the fact that, yeah, some people, they just made these threats because, yeah, I don't want to go to school this day. I know we got this problem right now. This is the perfect time to come up with this so we don't have no school. For those people, The prosecutors are looking for you. And we find out that you are the people who have made these threats falsely, you will be prosecuted. Wayne County alone made 7 arrests, 6 for false reports, and 1 kid with a gun. And then there's that situation. The one that happened in Southfield High School, I believe that's what Will is mentioning. There was a young man who basically had a handgun very similar to the one that was found on the shooter in Tuesday's shooting. Fortunately for us, one of his fellow students turned him in and let the administration know that he had a gun. Did not know what his intentions was, but basically felt not safe with him having the weapon there. So there's that. And some of these other threats have been found to be semi-credible, so there are those situations. Remember, just weeks ago, we had issues with Bloomfield High School and racial threats, racial epithets being written on the walls of the bathroom. And they were dealing with that. So, of course, there were other threats made at that high school. So that high school may even be closed down for a few more days because of that, because they're taking this very seriously based on what's happened in previous weeks. So we may actually be dealing with this situation for a few days now after the fact. Southfield, Oakland County, a 13-year-old had a gun in Detroit on the east side. Okay, so now that's multiple incidents. So we got 2 incidents that I know of. And who knows what more there may be. And I wonder if that particular school on the east side is the same one where they had the situation with the gang violence a couple weeks ago. Because understand, there are more than just these types of things going on in our high schools right now. I spoke about this earlier in the year, that when they started school back, there would be things that would come out in the open. Things that have been going on behind the scenes and people's computers and what have you. And now that they're back in school, they will be dealt with differently. That part of the cyberbullying was definitely taking place during the time in which we were doing school online. And this was all just continuations of what had happened in school previously. What's going on, Ro? Good to see you. Thanks for checking in. But yes, people, we have to understand we got a major problem. Problem 1, bullying in school is way different. This was a K and 8 school, which makes that even worse, Will. That's even worse still. That we're talking about middle school, elementary school people bringing guns to school. Where does the madness end? We as parents have a responsibility to talk to our young people and teach them right from wrong and teach them conflict resolution and anger management and the like. Are we doing a good job of that? I would like to think the majority of parents are, but clearly there are some parents that are not. When we send our kids to school, are we sending them with the proper instruction, with the proper understanding of saying, hey, if you have an issue or situation, please let the proper authorities know. Don't take it into your own hands, and most definitely don't use a weapon to resolve the issue. Are we all doing that? Clearly we're not. Are we talking to our kids enough to know that's what's going on in school? Are we having continuous conversations with them, asking them, okay, is everything good at school? Are you having any problems with administrators or other students or what have you? Are we having enough of those conversations with our young people? We have that to consider. When do we get to a point where we say enough is enough? Or we basically establish that all our schools are going to start looking like little prisons where we got metal detectors and people checking you and all that good stuff. Wands, the whole deal. Do we have to go to that to ensure the safety of our students? I hope not. I know most of America would not be liking that. That's just one step away from martial law as far as I'm concerned. We definitely don't want that. Man, these parents are using schools as daycare. They could care less. Trust me, it's bad out here. And yes, I agree with you, Will. I do believe a lot of these parents are just using these schools as the dumping ground. It's okay, this is 8 hours. I don't have to deal with my child. Go on and take him. I'll go do me. Because several of these parents, they're not even at work. They're at home. Just waiting till 4 o'clock. Taking that time to do God knows what. And yes, some parents, they do count on the schools to help out in terms of keeping their child somewhere safe while they go to work and what have you. I get that. But let's be honest. Some of y'all, and I'm going to say it. Hold on. Before I say it, let me put on the usual stuff, because I'm about to go there. So let me put on my usual thing. Give me a second. Right here.
The views and opinions expressed here on Get Off My Lawn Live are those of the host or his guests and do not necessarily reflect those of the Nighthawk Network or its associates. Viewer and listening discretion is advised.
All right, that being said, let me say it now. Some of y'all some punk parents. Plain and simple. You punk parents. You don't do a good job with your children. You don't do right by them. You don't talk to them enough. You don't cater them enough. You don't nurture them enough. You basically sit them in front of video games and televisions and go on about your business. You drink and smoke in front of them like it's nothing. You do a variety of things that is detrimental to the uplifting of that young person. So by the time they become adult, they have the two examples, one of what you say don't do and the one of what they see you do. And in the end, we get some of what we get now. There's a video where one of the students said he's really going through with it. So that means some of the students knew, but didn't say anything. And as I said earlier in the show, Roll, I have very good reason to believe that. Understand that at the time that this happened, and I'm listening to the report on the radio, there was a young person in my presence, and they said, and I quote, "I'm surprised it ain't happened at my school yet," unquote. Which led me to believe that there were some things that they saw as credible threats at their school, a Detroit public high school, I might add. So yeah, I'm not surprised that that's been, like I said, there's been several videos from the Oxford students. So much so I think there's actually a grouping either on TikTok or Facebook. Don't quote me on that. That's just based on certain things I heard of actual students from the Oxford High and some of the videos they've posted since that time or what have you. Like I said, there definitely need to be some discussions had before they open back that high school for certain. I myself, at this point, if any of those threats have been found semi-credible by any of these schools, I need more security at those schools, and I need those schools to be on high alert for anything. His social media was full of him making threats, and this is what's going to go down on his IG. Yeah, exactly. And those things have been basically resent by some of the other people in the high school. So when I go back to the interview again that I played earlier involving a young man saying he just had a funny feeling and decided not to go to school that day, and several of his other friends had decided not to go to, that was not a funny feeling. They knew this guy was serious, or at least they thought he was serious. And that's why they didn't go to school. Like it's been reported that at least 80 students missed school that day at Oxford High School. At least 80. Now, I don't know what the average is on a normal day, but I think 80 out of 1,800 students, I think that's a lot myself. The teacher said something, but the parents and the district did. I mean, like I said, as more information comes out, Road, I think we gain even bigger understanding of what took place. Like I said, I think we may find some things that are way worse going on at that particular high school, and definitely going to need some changes to take place in terms of not only security, but administration. Because bottom line, if you are not running the high school to where parents and students can be comfortable with the environment, then some changes definitely need to be taking place in terms of administration. New principal, new counselors, whatever the case may be. Because we can't let this happen again. Because the sad part, much like it was reported on CNN a couple days ago, when one of the CNN announcers was talking to his co-announcer and basically said, "Sadly, I know this hurts for you as a parent, but I promise you, we'll be reporting on this again, and probably sooner than later." And I really don't want that to be the case, but I completely agree with him. Man, when I decided to homeschool my daughter, I took her out of Southfield High School because the principal didn't want to take a student's threat seriously. Exactly. And you see what happened there at Southfield High School. and understand Southfield High School's kind of been an issue for even when I was going to school in terms of certain things, some 20, 30 odd years ago. So I get that. But again, I went to Cody High School. I got plenty of nerve, right? But yeah, remember, people, part of what people's thinking is that, yeah, we're going to go out to suburbia and have my kids go out here to school where they can be safe and comfortable and actually learn things. And they don't have those same problems that we have in urban high schools. But most of these shootings that have taken place in the last 10 or 15 years, they have not been at urban high schools. They have not been in New York City or Chicago, Detroit, Houston, Dallas, Los Angeles. They have been in your middle towns, your mid to small towns with middle class and upper middle class individuals. They have happened at those schools, your Oxford High Schools, your Bloomfield Hills, and what have you. That's where a lot of these threats and stuff are taking place. Same principle. Yep, I imagine so, Will. So true. Look, all of our black schools have metal detectors, and all the schools with shootings are all white and no metal detector, or at least primarily white. I would agree with that, Will. You can't argue that point, my friend. Because in the end, clearly metal detectors do help in some of these situations, but I also, as I said to someone, I do believe if you have that situation, despite the metal detectors at a school such as the Detroit High School, that shooter ain't gonna get but one or two people. Because one, you have security in those schools that do have guns and will shoot him on sight more than likely. And secondly, there are students who will have guns as well, particularly if those types of threats have been making the rounds in school and they think that person might do it. I could really see where there's a Detroit Public High School, that guy comes out the bathroom, he pops off 2 shots, and then about 4 shots hit him. Because no, we ain't going out like that today. Now, it said that one of the persons that was shot in this particular instance, the young football player, he basically was shot several times, but in the process, it was because he was trying to wrestle the gun away from the student. That is what one of the rumors has said in regards to what happened. And that's why he was shot. But they said based upon those actions, he helped save the lives of several others who were able to get away while that was taking place. Okay, the parents should go to jail also for buying a minor a gun. The parents are in jail right now, Miss Pat. You missed the earlier part of the show, but yes, both mom and dad and son are all in Oakland County jail right now, awaiting further charges and such. And that's where they need to stay. Thank you, Missy. Appreciate you. Thank you very much. But yeah, people, Will agrees with you, by the way, Miss Pat. But yes, when all is said and done, there's more to come from this story alone. But I think other stories are going to surface in the weeks to come as well, not only from Michigan high schools, but from other high schools. Thank you, Miss Sher. Thank you. But I do believe, my friends, we have to really start looking at this a bit more seriously. Because not only is it happening more frequently, it's becoming with more deadlier results, to be honest. This is what, maybe 5th or 6th shooting this year alone? We got to put an end to this thing. I know that they were arrested, but they need to stay there. Absolutely, Miss Pat. I completely agree. I can almost go as far as to say whatever sentence that he gets for killing those 4 kids, they should get a similar sentence. Understand that they just charged with involuntary manslaughter at this point, and he's charged with murder. But truthfully, I don't think any 3 of those individuals should see. You already know, Miss Sher, you know how we do it. I don't think any 3 of those individuals should ever see the light of day again. At all. And I don't care what they say in regards to they were scared and they were just trying to wait for a proper time to turn themselves in. Those parents were going to run, which further proves my point about punk parents. Not only have you caused this situation for your son to where now he's in jail, but Basically, you plan on abandoning him and leaving him to set his fate while you ran off to who knows where, trying to get away. That's good parenting right there, right? Yeah, son, you killed him. Your bad. We got to go. He probably feels that Rittenhouse got away with it. He could also. And then there's that problem, Miss Pat. Understand, I would not be surprised to find out some type of thought process similar to that went on in this young man's head. I'm not surprised if anybody else comes to that conclusion at some point. That is why it did not help overall that he got away with murder, Mr. Rittenhouse. And I will always see it that way, regardless of what the court said. They did run and left their son trying to get to Canada. Exactly. Exactly, Miss Pat. And what type of trifling parent are you to do that? You have a PK tomorrow. Okay, gotcha. 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. Okay. I think I got one tomorrow too. We'll talk about it. But where does the foolishness stop, people? That is the question of the day. What white person would hide on the east side of Detroit, of all places? Though I must say that it's probably more white people on the east side of Detroit than on the west side. But yet and still, you are who you are. Y'all might as well be Jay-Z and Beyonce in terms of popularity at this point. Everybody know who you are. Of course, everybody will be looking for you. If you was going to hide, you've been better off going up north to hide up there. Why would you come to basically the busiest place in the state to hide? On the weekend, no less. Just stupid. But clearly, that family specializes in stupid. A lot of stupid decisions was made all the way around in that. And like I said, when all is said and done, all three of those people should never, ever, ever see the light of day ever again. That's my thought on that. I'm sticking with that. But anyway, as more of the situation comes out and comes to light, we will continue to talk about it here on the show. We will keep you abreast of what is the situation. Ms. Pesce, and hide, and now the person that helped them to hide is going to, and they absolutely should go to jail because they know what it was. They know what they were doing. There wasn't no, oh, I just thought they needed a place to stay. There was none of that. You clearly looked to hide them. I don't care if they paid you everything else in their bank account. You was wrong. Just like they was wrong. Just like the little kid was wrong, okay? And now we got all this to contend with. All this hurt and tragedy you didn't cause during the holidays, no mess. I really feel bad for those families who have lost their young loved ones. If I remember right, 2 of the 4 people that were killed were only children. And now those parents have lost their only child to senseless gun violence. That's definitely not going to make it for a happy holiday for them. So, yeah, I definitely want to talk more about the holidays in general, some of the do's and don'ts and understanding. So when we get back to the show, we're going to put this away for a minute and get into some other stuff. It's just sad, y'all. It really is. But anyway, this is Get Off My Lawn Live. I am E-Buck. We'll be back after this. All right, guys, we are back. Get off my lawn live. EBZ, Eric Buckner, your host here. We are talking now about the holiday season and basically some of the do's and don'ts that we want to be aware of as we get further into the holiday season. As you know, many of us are going out and spending our hard-earned dollars to buy gifts for our loved ones and friends and what have you. Do you have to be lied to send someone a gift? I'm not sure about that, Miss Shear. I want to say no. But at any rate, want to talk about some of the do's and don'ts, okay? First of all, remember, there are people out here that mean you no good. They are looking for you. They enjoy the holiday season for a whole different reason than we do. They are here to basically get over on you, to rob from you, to steal from you, to basically take away what you have earned because they choose not to earn it. They choose to obtain it in that way. We got to be careful of these folks, okay? We got to be concerned. We got to be mindful that they exist. So when we go out to do our shopping, some advice. One, if you can do it during the day, do it during the day. Less likely to have bad things occur during the day. Still could, mind you. I'm not even celebrating this pagan holiday. Understand, Miss Pat, I do not celebrate Christmas either. But many of the people who watch the show do. So that's why we're having this segment. I'm basically just putting the information out there. Do with it what you will. I myself don't celebrate Christmas. I've talked about that on the show before. That practice will continue. But for those of us who do, I want to make sure that they are safe and doing things that are going to be in their better interest. Another thing is if you are going to shop and buy large ticket items, things that cost several hundreds of dollars and are visibly seen as such, I definitely would advise you to take multiple people with you so that you are shopping in a group and that you all do your shopping together so that in the event somebody comes along with bad intentions, there are people to look out for one another. Because I would imagine you'd be less likely to be harassed or robbed or what have you if there are multiple people with you. So there's that. In terms of the buying of the multiple items, if you are buying them online, things that cost hundreds of dollars, please ensure if you can that someone is home to receive your package or that you have a neighbor or a trusted family member or friend come by to make sure that your package arrives safely. Remember, over $20 billion worth of packages every year are stolen from people's porches. As in they come to your home, somebody sees them and whoop, swoops them up and goes on their merry way. It happens virtually every day and definitely more so during this time of year. So if you are buying if you're buying any item, let's be honest, please make sure that someone is home, if possible, to ensure that your package arrives safely. Remember, there are several ways to track many of these packages that you get from Amazon or are mailed through FedEx or UPS. By all means, make sure you do your due diligence and get the tracking codes and stuff for those packages so you may track them down to ensure that they get to you safely. Also, I would suggest that if you are going to buy these things and use credit cards, you keep track of all the credit statements involved in these purchases. You make sure that when you look online to see what you have bought on that card, that it matches correctly. You don't see any additional charges. A lot of that goes on because some of the people that steal from you, they work in these actual places, okay? They work in the stores. They are some of the employees even. So you definitely want to make sure that they are not skimming stuff off the side, so to speak. Another thing, you want to be mindful of some of the purchases that you buy that are used or refurbished or what have you. Oftentimes people buy things from like thrift shops or buy things off eBay, resale shops, things of the like. You want to make sure you get what you're paying for. Definitely want to avoid buying things off the street from these street vendors, okay? Many people are out now and it's like, okay, hey, I got this and this for sale. Do you want to buy it? A recent story in the news involved someone buying what they thought was a high-end television set. It had a good weight and all of that to it. They get it home only to find that there were several small bricks placed within the TV set, hidden between wires that appeared to be television wires, so that they thought they were getting a TV, but in actuality, it was just the bottom bar of a television set, bricks, and some wires. No TV. Every year there are stories like that takes place. People buying Xboxes that are not Xboxes, or watches that don't have any guts in them, a variety of different stuff. So please try to get your purchases from credible sources. But if not, please make sure that when you're buying them from a third party or outside party, or from a basic hustle man A, B, or C, that you are getting what you paid for and it works correctly if you have to go that route. Another thing, yes, Miss Pat, it absolutely is terrible. But like I said, there are people out here that's out to do dirty, plain and simple. Thanks for gifts, meet. But when all is said and done, folks, you want to have an enjoyable holiday. And my advice to you is that don't overextend yourself. If you cannot afford to buy all these things for all these folks, don't do it. Just don't do it. If your family or friends hate you now because you did not buy them a Christmas present, guess what? They're not your real family or friends, okay? They don't love you for real. If they know you are on hard times, you're still trying to get up on money due to the pandemic and all that other stuff, they should not require you to buy them anything. Part of why I don't do Christmas is because I'm not with the whole commercialism aspect of it. The fact that we spend over $80 billion every year on Christmas, and many of the presents that we get or give, we have no knowledge as to where they are 90 days later. Is it really worth it in the end to go through all that, to find ourselves in additional debt when January and February get here, or to go through the whole process yet again, so to speak, when we have tax season, or tax baller season, as I like to call it, when we go through the process of buying a whole bunch of other stuff that we really can't afford, or we overextend ourselves with. So there's that. Remember also, in your comings and goings, wherever you're going, whether you're going shopping or not, there are those who are hoping that you are carrying a little extra cash on you, that are not quite paying attention because you consumed with holiday shopping and whatnot. They are waiting for you. So please be more mindful of your surroundings during this time of year. Make sure that if you are going out in the dark, you're looking back and by your car, you're trying to park in lighted areas where you can see the sides of your car as well as under your car. As some people do that. They basically wait up under people's car. They wait for them to go to get in their car, grab them, and rob them that way. There's a variety of different methods. And for everything that we know, they come up with new stuff all the time. So we all can't just walk out here with our own private security and whatnot. So we got to be our own security. We got to be our own eyes and ears. We got to be our own, because right now, like I said, people, they all don't think like us. Some people, we just want to go about our day, have fun with our families and children, and enjoy the rest of our time here in the holidays. Some people, they don't look at it that way. This is their time to scheme, their time to plunder. And those people, I don't want them to have a good Christmas. Not at all. Not at all. But at any rate, my friends, this is where we're going to end the show today. Good discussion. Basically, next week, we're going to talk about some of the charities that are looking for help here during the holiday season, how we as people can help them out. We may also have a guest next week. I will keep you posted. But in the meanwhile, we're going to head up out of here. I thank you guys very much for coming on and giving your opinion. It is sad that we have to live like it really is, Miss Pat. It truly is. But sadly, this is the state of our world as we know it. And we have to find our way to best navigate our way through it. And that's why we have these discussions, these forums, so we can all keep each other informed, and help each other along the way. So that being said, y'all, this is Get Off My Lawn Live for this particular Sunday. Thanks again to Will and Miss Pat and those of you on Beagle who joined the conversation. We will be back next Sunday with more talk about the things we need to talk about as people, trending topics, and the like. Until then, have a great rest of your week. Remember, we still are in the midst of a full-blown pandemic. Please do what you do to keep yourself safe. Wear your mask, social distance, keep up good dietary and sanitary habits, and all those things that we need to do to try to eradicate this thing called COVID once and for all. Or at least get it to points where it could be controlled and we don't have to be as concerned about it. That part. But anyway, we are out of here, y'all. It's your boy EB. Love y'all, mean it. Hold on. There you go. See ya.